Hi, my name's Jake Hendricks. Some of you may remember me from the Channel 4 soap Hollyoaks. Today I'm here to meet with a group of incredible young people who have each received help and support from the children and young people's charity Jigsaw4u. Every one of them has had to cope or try to come to terms with the death of a loved one. By telling us about their experiences and the solid support they were able to get from Jigsaw4u, they believe they may be able to help others who find themselves in similar circumstances. For some of them, their stories began 9 years earlier when a previous documentary was made close to the time that they first experienced their loss or trauma. For others, their experience is new, only a matter of months have passed. But whatever the case, each one will tell you that Jigsaw4u has given them strategies for coping.
I had a lot of anger, and my dad had cancer, and he had it for 8 years, and it was getting to the point where he was kind of deteriorating, and he was taken to the St. Catherine's hospice, and well, that's when, well, it was just, I think it was a Monday, and about 4:30 maybe, and we got a call saying that, you know, he was getting worse. So me and my mum decided to go in, and well, we were there about 7 hours maybe, and well, his pulse started to go, and nurses came in and said, say your goodbyes, and just went.
I understood completely what was going on. My dad was ill for about 2 years, and I knew the whole time what was going to happen. And I was sad, but I think particularly in terms of looking after my mum and stuff, because I was the only one that lived at home, you just deal with it in a very matter-of-fact way, and it only takes you until you get to kind of your teenage years to realise really the impact that's going to have on your life, I think.
When I was 18 months, my mum passed away. Then when I was 9, my uncle passed away. And then when I was, last year, February, when I was 15, I found my auntie dead in her house. So I had to call the ambulance, and obviously I wasn't at school. So then my school referred me to Jigsaw. Well, my mum died of lupus. So I didn't really know her, but she died when I was younger. My uncle died of a brain tumour. He had epilepsy, and my brother found him on the floor. And then I think he went into a coma in hospital. I'm not too sure. And then he passed away. And then my auntie, she had a blood clot, and it travelled up to her leg. It travelled up to her lungs and stopped her from breathing.
Basically, my dad died when I was 3 from lung cancer, and obviously being such a young age, it was difficult to really know what was going on. And a couple of years later, my mum found out about Jigsaw4u through a few kind of other parents who were a bit lost, a bit unsure whether to try and get help, whether to try and deal with it ourselves.
You know, I went to deep depression, and it's just where you want to just, well, you don't really want to carry on with life. That's pretty much how I felt. And well, after coming to Jigsaw groups, you know, there's a bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and you just feel, yeah, there's something to keep living for. Yeah, again, helped me get my life back on track.
Did you speak to, or did you find any people who you felt had gone through a similar thing? Or?
Yeah, there were lots of, well, in my group, everyone had lost their dad, and you know, it's kind of, well, you can relate to them, you know, and some of them were, you know, recent like me, and it's much easier to talk to someone when you've been through similar experiences.
Do you think it's also important to speak to other males?
Well, male or female, it doesn't really matter.
And so I went to Jigsaw4u, went through the groups, and with about 20 other children at the time, and really started to kind of lose that sense of feeling on my own that no one else was in the same situation.
It's things that you can keep forever, and it's like a memory of something. So the person that died It's like a memory of what they had, what they did, like my dad's golf tie. It's to remind me of how he played golf. You can use a memory box out of any box. It doesn't have to be a shoe box. It can be anything you like. It can even be a box that your dad or mum used to use at work.
Even though I was so young, I felt it really, really helped me at the time.
10-year-old me was involved with the original DVD, basically talking about how I felt at the time. Obviously it was a lot more raw.
My teacher hadn't told my class, and so everyone knew he was ill, and one of my friends asked me how he was, and then that was kind of upsetting.
So it was my initial kind of dealings with Jigsaw and my initial coping, really, and I don't think I had coped by then looking back on it, but obviously I thought that I had. And just kind of talking about how Jigsaw had helped me and everyone else in different ways, I think.
What did they talk about in the counselling sessions?
They said that we didn't really base it on my auntie, because obviously that's why I got transferred, because of my auntie's death, but we based it on my mum because my counsellor thought that I didn't get to grieve over my mum. So they wanted to base it on my mum. So we talked about how my mum, I had to ask my dad questions about my mum, like her favourite, I didn't even know her favourite colour or nothing like that. And then through the counselling, I went home and I asked. And then we made a book based on my mum. Like, we wrote how she died and what I'm going to miss, when I'm older, not having her. And then I done a page about my uncle and my auntie. But the counselling was all majority on my mum, about how I feel.
I remember coming to the groups because I was 10, I was put into the older group, so I was with like really quite old teenagers, and I think at first I was a bit intimidated because there were people that were so much older than me, and there were like brothers and sisters and people who'd come with their siblings and their families who kind of had a connection already. So I think when I first arrived I was a bit taken aback.
And was there any feeling of judgment at all, do you remember?
No, not at all. Even though not everyone's lost a parent or not everyone's lost a father, everyone's lost someone. And I don't think you come here with the mind to judge. I think you come here purely for your own kind of benefit, and then you realise that there are so many people who are in the same situation, if not worse than yours, that you immediately just bond together and try and help each other more than judge each other, definitely.
Talking about it it helps me, that's one of the things I like. But also they do things like the anger wall with the clay, which you just, yell, you yell and you just throw it at the wall, and sometimes you can like draw a picture of someone you hate or something. You just do that, so.
I've never heard of an anger wall. What does it look like?
Well, it's just, you don't have to be a wall, you can just have a fence or something. You just put up a picture and then you just throw a bit of clay.
What do you think that you get from Jigsaw that you don't get from other places?
I get heard and people listen to me and then they action on what I say. I'm on Young Inspectors with Jigsaw4u, and for example, I inspect services around a certain borough, and then I make a community report and send it to the service we inspected, and it has like what we think they should change for young people and disability people, and then they action what we say, they action what we suggest, and then 6 months later we go re-inspect the service to see if they've actioned it and to see if they've made it better.
So you're getting heard by presumably some top people?
Yeah, pretty much.
So we went a couple of years ago to speak to some MPs, and one of them said, what could you do about the tsunami? Or something along those lines. And from that, we decided to go out to Sri Lanka. And it kind of made you feel, even though I've got all these problems, like obviously not having a dad, you to put it into perspective when you see these people who are orphans and they haven't got anything else at all, they haven't got that kind of help.
We had our national conference and stupidly brought it up as an idea as a kind of cocky 14-year-old, thought, yeah, that'd be great, let's go and help people orphaned by the tsunami. And one of the MPs and patrons said, do it, let's do it, we can make this happen. And then we went over there not knowing what to expect, and it was just incredible. Definitely the best experience of my life so far.
We had little girls who drew before, during and after pictures, which are basically where you draw on 3 pieces of paper. You draw your before, the tsunami, during the tsunami and after the tsunami. You can put it into any situation, which is why it's quite good. And there was one girl who decided to draw before, when it was all a nice happy family, both the parents, during the kind of chaos of tsunami, trees, trains, people everywhere just going manic. And at the end, just her on her own with the sea kind of calm, but all the dead bodies in the sea, which was really, really powerful, and it kind of broke the language barrier, and it was really, really quite kind of amazing.
Like the projects in Ghana and that, you know, Mike, it sounds like I could help people, so that would be good.
I've worked with a lot of other kind of strains of Jigsaw, and I just see how it affects people in completely different ways and saves people from themselves a lot of the time. I know people who've been bereaved who have kind of gone down a downward spiral, could be years afterwards, and just knowing that you've got that sort of skills network, to put it in a kind of business term, to deal with it, I think is priceless, really.
What's the single most important thing that Jigsaw4u has done?
Kind of taught me to realise that it's all right to feel upset and it's all right to cry, which was one of the first things that Anne said to me when I was at the groups, and I've remembered that to this day, and that's one of the things I try and pass on. But I think the most important thing that Jigsaw does for you is kind of tell you to try and help other people in the same situation. And not everyone comes back to try and help, but there's definitely a kind of feeling that it's a community and a family with loads of different families within it, and you can just chat to whoever you want to.
I think the most important thing is knowing that you're not alone, and also a kind of self-awareness that I've been bereaved since I lost my dad, and I think knowing how to cope, or not just how to cope, but knowing what you're feeling is normal is just such an important thing to have, I think.
They've helped me a lot through my grief, and they've helped me grow my confidence for young inspectors. I want to be a social worker. I want to work with abused families and probation work with young youths. So it's the right path, I think, for you, Jigsaw.
I've been working at Jigsaw for about 10 years now. So I think I started doing conferences. Jigsaw started doing national conferences, but also before that, smaller conferences. So just leading workshops to professionals, kind of telling them how I feel about how grief support services should be run. And a lot of people from schools and social services had never dealt with grief in this sort of way before. And I think young people-led projects weren't as popular then. So it was just kind of educating people on listening to children and young people, I think.
I want to see Jigsaw, obviously it's international now, but I want to see it kind of spread out more and help more families, because it does such an amazing job that I think it would, people who don't have it really miss out.
I mean, you don't have to get involved as I have. You can just turn up to the groups and take away whatever you want from that. So I think there's something for everyone. If you want to just come and listen to what everyone else has to say, then if that's what you need to do, then definitely do it.
Sometimes people don't know how to deal with them, so they just kind of either stay off. There are two approaches: either stay as far away as they can, or they be too intrusive. And I think, especially with children, they want to be asked about what they want to do, whether they want to have someone to talk to, or whether they want to kind of just have everyone leave them alone. So I think that's one of the most important messages that kind of people can take, is that you've always got to ask the person what they want.
You've heard some amazing stories from some very special children and young people, all of whom have experienced the death of a parent. Jigsaw4u has enabled them to express their feelings and to develop strategies for coping. In the UK, every 30 minutes a child is bereaved of a parent. That's 53 children a day, 20,000 children a year. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Other children will be bereaved of siblings, aunts, uncles and grandparents. We need your help to make a difference to more children. You can help us by providing time, skills and money. Help us to make that difference.